I haven't thought about Roswell along the lines of Dennis's intent before, and I've read a lot of books about Roswell and UFOs and stuff. And it has never crossed my mind whatsoever that the Roswell crash could have been intentional to seed us with technology and stuff like that. But now we've discussed it here and seeing the sessions and stuff, it's making me think, what if that is the case or was the case, and the effects that's happened from that since, not all bad but not maybe all good as well.
The target's relationship with humanity, so target, I think in this case we're talking about the creator of the technology, could be characterized as harvesters, manipulators, and conquerors. They are intending a new day chapter creation beginning for humanity, akin to walking through a door to a new planet. They seek to colonize and require obedience.
Stay away, it's dangerous. Leave well alone. It's scary. These are my thoughts. It's scary and it's fascinating, but it's above my capabilities. Leave well alone. And I was told, stay away, it's dangerous. Narrow-eyed, closed, flat-brained. They called me flat-brained. They told me I was flat-brained. I couldn't understand it.
Humanity being ignorant, oblivious. Idea of a price paid for advancement.
I wrote this technology is related to energy generation. I get the sense of atmospheric elements, charge and discharge, like a supercharged fuel cell. I see a donut torus field. I see electricity and lightning and sprites associated with the technology. Ring-type structures hold a charge similar to an antenna. Feels very green, like fuelless fuel cell. Allows for distributed electricity, no emissions. Reminds me of Tesla putting power out of the air, like a generator, game changer.
All right, friends, this is Dennis Nappy II here, and this is our second target with the Hellfire Remote Viewing Group. Several of us worked this target. I was the project manager and tasker on this one, and the results were, I guess, a little bit wild for some of us. Some of the viewers experienced some interesting sensations, anxiety, frustration, as they were working through this target. It's a curious target here. The viewers that we have with us here, we have Darby, Naeem, Rick, Coral, Daz, and Anita. And it's been a really fun project to work on. The target was the Roswell silicon chips. If you're familiar with the 1947 Roswell crash, according to Colonel Philip J. Corso, and I'll go over the tasking document in a moment, but Philip J. Corso wrote a book that was published in 1997 talking about the recovery and how his job was to take some of the recovered technology and seed it out to different development companies, research and development companies, to integrate this tech into the military and then into the general population. I made a comment that was curious in that book that made me wonder, is this project, is this technology intentionally seeded here to have a direct impact on human affairs, human consciousness, and whatnot? The tasking document here for this project was the Roswell silicon chips, their purpose, origin, and impact. So the initial tasking, the viewer will describe the purpose and function of the silicon chips recovered from the Roswell crash as reported by Colonel Philip J. Corso in his book, The Day After Roswell. I had some subtasks here that I was using to guide you guys once you submitted your sessions. Viewer will identify the intelligence behind the creation of the silicon chips found at the Roswell crash. Note viewers to focus on the original chips recovered, not any reproductions that may have been made. Number two, the viewer will describe the impacts this technology will have on human society. Number three, viewer will describe the impacts this technology will have on human consciousness and physiology. And then I put a note here of my own bias. I believe the chips were seeded here by an advanced intelligence connected to AI with the intention of acting as a Trojan horse to push human evolution in a particular direction to allow the merging of consciousness with AI. So that was my own bias that I wanted to disclose here. And now looking at a little bit of background on it, in 1997, Colonel Philip J. Corso released his book, The Day After Roswell. In his book, he claims to have worked for the Pentagon with the task of taking recovered debris from the Roswell crash and covertly sending them to labs to be reverse engineered. Looking at the tiny silicon chips or integrated circuits, Corso speculated on the following possibility, which can be found in chapter 12 of his book. It was as if from the year 1947 to 1980, a fundamental paradigm shift in the ability of humankind to process information took place. Computers themselves almost became something like a silicon-based life form, inspiring the carbon-based life forms on the planet Earth to develop them, grow them, and even help them reproduce. With computer-directed process control programs now in place in virtually all major industries, software that writes software, neural network-based expert systems that learn from their own experience in the real world, and current experiments underway to grow almost microscopically thin silicon-based chips in the weightless environment of Earth orbit may be the forerunner of a time when automated orbital factories routinely grow and harvest new silicon material for microprocessors more sophisticated than we can even imagine at the present. Were all of this to be true, could it not be argued that the silicon wafers we recovered from Roswell were the real masters and space travelers of the EBE creatures, extraterrestrial biological entity creatures, their hosts or servants? Once implanted successfully on Earth, our culture having reached a point of readiness through its development of the first digital computers, would not the natural development stream, starting from the invention of the transistor, have carried us to a point where we achieve a symbiotic relationship with the silicon material that carries our data and enable us to become more creative and successful? Maybe the Roswell crash, which helped us develop the technological basis for the weapon systems to protect our planet from the EBEs, was also the mechanism for successfully implanting a completely alien, non-humanoid life form that survives from host to host like a virus, digital Ebola that we humans will carry to another planet someday. Or what if an enemy wanted to implant the perfect spying or sabotage mechanism into a culture? Then the implantation of the microchip-based circuit into our technology by the EBEs would be the perfect method. Was it implanted as sabotage or as something akin to a gift of fire? Maybe the Roswell crash in 1947 was an event waiting to happen, like poisoned fruit dropping from the tree into a playground. Once bitten, the poison takes effect. Now, in looking at all of our data, I believe we all had elements of that, positive and negative, which I'll talk about at the end. But the positive, there are some positive aspects. You're talking about the gift of fire. I think could shed a different perspective on whatever this could mean. My concerns here would be obviously telepathic overlay, my own bias, my own belief system. I try to disclose that up front and separate it from the tasking by disclosing it in the tasking. So I'll welcome your commentary on that as well. Just want to do a quick little background on this as well. I have a little bit more information. After I had tasked this target, I randomly got an idea to do a little bit more research on the integrated circuit. I'm thinking, well, what if this has been completely debunked? It's something an angle I never thought about. And there's a lot of information about the creator of the integrated circuit here. So I want to share this, and I think it's helpful. So here we go. Here's our screen share. Jack Kilby, this is just a quick Wikipedia search, but Jack Kilby of Texas Instruments is most noted for creating the integrated circuit that Colonel Corso claims was, a product of the Roswell crash. Now, Corso claims he went through Bell Labs. Now, this is Texas Instruments. This is well documented. So when I came across this information, I thought, great, we're chasing a fable here, a fairy tale. But I didn't stop digging there. So let's see what else I came across. Okay, so I came across a guy by the name of Gordon Kidd Teal. Gordon Kidd Teal worked for Bell Labs. Now, the late 40s, early 50s, Gordon, which is around the time that Corso was bringing the technology to be reverse engineered at Bell Labs, Gordon Teal then went back and took a job as a supervisor at Texas Instruments. So although Kilby is credited with creating the integrated circuit, there is still a possible link from Corso to Bell Labs to Gordon Kidd Teal who then went on to work at Texas Instruments and possibly brought that technology with him. So there's still a possibility that this is connected to the Roswell crash because there's direct linkages between those companies. I didn't expect to find that information. I thought I was done. And I just, as I'm going through, it's weird how things just pop up when you're going through some of this research. Another thing, again, that I just think is weird about this project that I didn't know, where's my AT&T article here? This is an article from July 6, 1997. This is written in response to the Roswell, to the Day After Roswell book that was released by Colonel Corso. And it's talking about how it's possible that Close Encounters gave a boost to AT&T. What I thought was weird, though, when I came across this was this line down here. I can't find it right now. This company, one of the main companies that was producing the integrated circuits, is located in Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is about 10 minutes from where I live. I did not expect that at all. I don't think it really means anything other than it's just an odd coincidence. And then there's a debunking book called The Roswell Report, Case Closed. And this book is all about, it's like a weather balloon and stuff. And they claim that some of the materials recovered at the Roswell crash were made in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania, which is where I grew up. So I just think those are very odd coincidences. I don't think that it means anything beyond that. I don't know, maybe it does, but just putting that out there, how this target somehow seems to be closer to me than I realized. So, okay. I'm curious to hear all of your data now. Let's focus on that. We have a lot of data, so I don't know that we need to go through page by page, line by line, but really just what stood out. Let's start with that. What stood out to you and what did you learn from this experience? I'm going to put, like Daz did, I'll put together a document so those that want to go through all the data can take a look at that. But Darby, I'll just go in the order on my screen. Darby, we can start with you, your reaction to the tasking and then your experience as you were going through this.
Dennis, before I start, I had no idea you were near Allentown. I'm in Carlisle. I'm like,
oh wow! All right, we're gonna have to do lunch one day. That's awesome.
Yeah,
small world.
I think what I'm going to do, Dennis, just deviate a little bit from the way you were guiding me, and just quickly go through a couple of my summaries of the session.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
So this is a summary from session 1. This is basically just my interpretation of the data. So there's a lot of AOL here, but I felt that the target was comprised of man-made structures, objects, and life forms and was an event. I had very strong emotions of loss, grief, and sadness and fear with the target. And I felt like I was viewing some type of an event that destroyed a civilization or a community of people with a large loss of life. Overall, throughout the 3 sessions that I did, I walked away with a very negative impression of whatever I was viewing. It didn't seem like there was anything really positive going on. There seemed to be 2 groups of people at the target for session 1. One was a group of kind of neutral-like observers. I called them UN-like. They just seemed to be holding back and kind of observing things. And then there's another group that seemed like they might be, evil, if you want to give them a label. Mm-hmm. And it felt like the target was in the past. I was getting a lot of associations with water, something underwater specifically, and kept getting a concept of something flying above, concept of a soldier war, bomb burst, bomb-like, something toxic like radiation. I had a sense of multiple silvery, hard, bright, hot, round, man-made, metallic, electronic objects associated with the target. And ultimately, the target event of the destruction may serve as some kind of a lesson for humanity that will inform another attempt at creating or rebuilding something. And then you gave me a retasking basically to look into what the cause of the destruction was and the process, events, and mechanism of the destruction, and the target's relationship to humanity. I dived into session 2, and just to kind of summarize my summary, what I was getting was that the process of the destruction that you asked me to look at was multifaceted. It could involve microbial, air, water, and agricultural vectors. It was planned, it was anticipated, it involved travel and machines and vehicles. There's also something about collecting wildlife, also earth changes, also something metallic capped and silvery, and again, some data that suggested something about nuclear fission. And diving a little bit deeper into it, I felt like there was like some kind of a duplicity going on where something was being introduced to humanity, but it was actually like, well, I'm using your words now, but it was like a Trojan horse. So what do I write here? I say, it may involve a helpful relationship between military and ETs and reverse engineering of technology. However, these discoveries could be part of a cataclysmic event, ushering in a new chapter in humanity. And I don't, based upon what I viewed, this new chapter would not be a positive one. The target's relationship with humanity, so target, I think in this case, we're talking about the creator of the technology, could be characterized as harvesters, manipulators, and conquerors. They are intending a new day chapter creation beginning for humanity akin to walking through a door to a new planet. They seek to colonize and require obedience. The target is from the stars and could be described as conquerors, rulers, elite, although they might purport to be peaceful elder brothers that are here to teach. There may be something artificial or robotic concerning the target. Target may view humanity as raw materials for a new creation.
So before you move on, Darby, I have some commentary on that. There's a guy by the name of James Giordano. I know some of us have looked at this already. I should have put it in the feedback. He's a neurophysicist or neuroscientist, and there's a video out there on the internet from 2018. And he's talking about the new battlefield is the brain and brain science. He talks about nanotechnology and the size of it and what it can do and how it could infect the brain and alter human perception and behavior. And that's the battlefield that we need to be concerned about. It's a very concerning, eye-opening conversation about this tech that presently exists, that's presently, being further developed through things like DARPA. This guy's credentials, they're very, very strong. He's very, very credible with what he's saying. And it sounds a lot like some of this stuff here. And I tie in, I always come back to Edward Reardon's remote viewing QAnon sessions, if you haven't seen that talks about a similar mechanism of tech that's altering humanity, basically. And lastly, I'm reading a book right now. I think it's by Art Jacobson. It's called Walking Among Us, and it's about the hybrid program, how we're gradually being changed and hybridized. So those things come to mind in that dark dystopian aspect of my mind as I read that.
Okay. So I wanted to mention that I was one of the people that were feeling a good bit of anxiety both while viewing this target and afterwards. And I can't say that I got to the point where at one point I started feeling like I was going to have panic attacks, which I am familiar with. Probably 15 years ago, I went through a bout of panic attacks and learning how to deal with them. And it's a part of my history, but I started having that feeling coming back. Now, there was other things other stressors in my life happening at the time. So I can't say for sure that it was directly related to this target, but I kind of made an association in my mind. So I did do a last session, but the feelings of anxiety kind of continued. And at that point, I just wanted to kind of back off of the target in case it was related, which I did. So I did a partial session 3. The session 3 retasking was interesting. I thought you wanted me to move forward in time 1 year from present and describe the target's impact, and 5 years, and then 10 years. And so the data I got was all negative. I mean, you could basically categorize it all as an apocalypse. There's information that seemed to suggest nuclear data. I had a couple of really neat ideograms that really were just like something was going up, up, up with a lot of speed, which was a different kind of ideogram for me than what I've seen before. So just felt like I was looking at something flying and metallic. Again, zoom, up, up, up. So what is that? And this is 1 year, 1 year. I had a sense of people being carried away, people moving, like ferried away. Data related to the moon, growing things, cargo. I don't know what this is about. Something about some type of a medicine bottle with particles inside, and robots. Is there little robot particles inside something, some kind of a bottle or medicine? Something about the ocean and the economy, fishing ships, white powder. I kept probing into 1 year forward from the impact from the target, and I got a feeling of a policeman with the law, basically a city on lockdown, unrest. Summer Africa earth changes, restrictions, race, tribes, camps, gangs, shootings, men, armored interpretation, clashes, sirens, pandemic outbreak, looting, something about IT, computers, or fraud. 5 years into the future, I saw something look like it was flying and shooting something down. And when I probed it, I got the concept of detergent, cameras, dystopia, like a militarized zone, move along, military, police enforcement, crossing boats, checkpoints, guns, October surprise. Basically, I felt like it was a massive control, a horrible, hellish sort of dystopia, bread lines, people being washed down, crowds. Internet is how we connect. 10 years, in a way it was calm. It was a calm feeling, but I felt like we were looking at some area that was basically like a memorial. It was like a grave. It was like a dead civilization. And it was basically empty, and nature was kind of taking over. There was another object or area that in my stage 3 that I AOL'd as survivors on a ship of some kind. Military was involved. There was something flying again, something rectangular. It felt like a post-Noah's Ark, or post-Noah, the flood scenario on Noah's Ark. Collapsed infrastructure, microchips tagged and bagged, the discarded here in this area. So, and that's where I ended session 3. It felt like I had enough. Sorry if I took a little too long there, Dennis, but I felt like that was the best way to go over my data.
No, I think that was important. How do you feel overall about the target, the tasking, the feedback? I mean,
overall, personally, that I'd have to put a disclaimer and say that I don't know specifically what I was viewing. I know there's a lot of thoughts out there in the stratosphere about the Roswell crash and that technology. And I think that there's so much we don't know about remote viewing in terms of, telepathic overlay and all of that I could just be viewing a bunch of people's ideas about it. The anxiety that I felt while doing the session is telling. And, personally for me, I'm asking myself, what does that mean? Is that a sign that maybe I'm off here, that there's something that I'm more viewing someone's idea about a target than the actual target? And I don't have any of the answers. It certainly, I certainly wouldn't want to do a target like this, every day of the week, or even, once a week, if I kept having those type of reactions. But it might just be a weakness on my part in terms of being a viewer.
I have the same concerns, Darby, are you guys tapping into something that I was, expecting to see, my understanding of or my thoughts on what might be going on? Because it's a pretty far out there concept, everything that we're looking at, and then the data that came back in support of it. But at the same time, we just don't know. So yeah, take it with a grain of salt, I would say right now, for entertainment purposes only, at this point. So Darby, thank you for participating. Thank you for pushing through that anxiety too. You had some great sessions there. Okay, Coral, let's go with you next.
Yeah, talking about anxiety, I started my second session with "this place is disgusting" and I feel nauseous. So there it is. We obviously had the same. I'll do the same. I'll screen share. This is the first session. Yeah. Just lots of land and man-made, various man-mades. There's a wall, something's closed in, the type of land, so I was describing the place. There's an area of the land that feels quite dangerous, red and sparkly, and that it's been created as a byproduct. There's a structure, and inside the structure there's strange materials. It's got gold in it. I was feeling gold for communication. On the top it feels like a strip with spikes because the top area is delicate, beautiful, glassy, golden, brittle and dangerous. And then there's a lens that's for communication. So the very first AOLs I got, the desert, the place. Where's my man who fell to earth? I got man who fell to earth straight away. There, it's inside, you see, it's inside a protected area there. It's an enclave, sand, it's desert. And then I've got this thing here, there's some kind of mechanism. There's my adobe wall, and it's got tubes inside the wall. That's the structure there that's got gold and the antenna growing out of it. There you are, out of this world feeling, man who fell to earth. So I got straight away. So that's my first drawing, and it felt like this area was transparent. I wonder if I'm not looking at in depth at silicone, at what the structure of silicone is here. Golden, wooden, ancient. Feels like there's gold in it. There's the building, this laboratory of stuff going on, and this is gold. There's a gold amalgama something on top, and this is communication. These are like antennae that grow up. Now, I try and describe it. It's obviously an area in like a desert place. It's got a pit here. And there's mountains on this side. And this lens is for communication in some way.
I'm wondering if you're looking at, if that is the circuit itself. You know, I'm looking at pictures of the circuit. They have the antenna coming out of them.
Oh, okay. And then there's this horrible red stuff. I have no idea what it was, but it created a lot of anxiety and disgust. Again, here the rocks, and here again is this amazing jewel-like thing with this lens in it here. So I probed the man-made, and I got golden, energetic, and protected. Growth trace telephone cabin, and it's generating, and it created that sparkly red stuff at the bottom, and it produces energy. Why is it closed away? Because it's gold, it's conducting, it has excess energy, and it's dangerous. I do have an AOL of lizard and the manipulator and creator, and it has to do with power. Stay away, it's dangerous. Leave well alone. It's scary. These are my thoughts. It's scary and it's fascinating, but it's above my capabilities. Leave well alone. And I was told, stay away, it's dangerous. Narrow-eyed, closed, flat-brained. They called me flat-brained. They told me I was flat-brained. I couldn't understand it. So, lizards there, and there's a control center. I still get the feeling that I'm describing the place. There's a control center. Here's the place where that is constructed. And there's a byproduct that's dangerous. And I say it's not quite nuclear experiments, but it's got something to do with like gamma. Now, I'm not an engineer, so I can't really get there. Now, I don't know if this will work if I go, no, it doesn't work. I have to go out of this and come back into another window, which should be, hang on, this window here. Let's see if I can get it. There, got it. Here. What are we looking at? Let's see if I can find it. Okay. Is this... No, you're not seeing that, are you? I always have these problems with...
I see your whole desktop now. I can see everything.
Okay, that's not what I wanted. Let's try it again. I'm trying to show you the second session because you retasked me.
Right.
Okay. Is it working?
I can see summary. Yep. This looks like session 2, yeah.
Okay, there's session 2. All right. So, starting from the gestalts of the man-made, there appear to be multiple structures immersed in a natural, isolated feeling landscape. So I'm going back to the place again. And then here I describe the structure, and I'm probably describing the material. The material is very strong, resiny, a bit elastic, not so rigid or fragile. It feels lenticular, thick, curved, circular, enclosed. It can be moved around. Now I just want to show you the drawings. It feels as though it's aimed at the sky. And inside the structure, the atmosphere is dense, close. It makes my hair stand up on end. The inside, it's undergoing a chemical change. There's a fine mesh growth, mycelium-like white threads, and it's aided. There was like a chemical experiment. It feels like there's blood and death and growth. It feels like organic engineering. And what has been created streams out of there like electrical threads coming out of the top of the structure. And again, gold. There's been gold into the mix somewhere. There's the area, the byproduct. It doesn't feel very nice. Sometimes I feel disgusted, nauseous, as well as having my hair stand on end from the field it creates. So look at that. As I go in, it feels as though it's vibrating. It's a man-made. As I go in, my hairs on my neck are standing up and I'm feeling nausea. It feels bad. It feels like an earthquake, so there's that kind of energy. So then I go in and describe, and now I'm going into this lenticular thing. It's creating wormholes, so somehow it does have possibilities to communicate. And there are the drawings
real quick,
inside.
are you still on page 1 of your summary? Because that's the only page that we're seeing right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I beg your pardon. Can you see this? Can you see me moving it now?
I can see you moving it now, yeah.
Okay, all right.
There we go.
I was on, for some reason, there's the lenticular thing. And they're looking into galaxies. So it is definitely communicates with galleries. There's my drawing of like the lens-like material that can be moved around. Now, I'm saying that something emanates out of this. There's the mycelium. See, it's enclosed, but it emanates out. That's the structure. That's inside. And there's the drawing. So I'm saying this is important. And this is like what's coming out of it, something coming out of it. Communication. It's like a fungus. It works. Something disgusting. Is there blood? And to me, it was, it was built in this lab. I got this thing that these are like, they're like trays of chemicals, how it was constructed, and the communication up here. It's a crucible. But I have an SC that this material is a dying star. It's chemical. It's a chemical exchange it's creating. Move to function and purpose 4. It's a new material, but I believe that it's a mix of biological and man-made. So it's like an organic kind of metal, nuclear mycelium, holotropic galaxies. It's to create and connect. and it can power space travel. It's cultural engine. It's a foreign power, and it's remotely controlled. So that plays right into what you were looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I've gone back and I've done a blank map, what looks like of the site. It's producing good and bad here. The effluent is dangerous. It reminds me of Dune.
Mm.
Excavated, seeping, bones, butchery, the rivers of Babylon. The AOLs are very funny in this. But I do get minerally, rocky, hard. They were in hazmat suits for sure, walking on the moon. It has a lot of electronics.
Like a spaceship.
Like a spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's really what I've got. It's all taken me a lot by surprise, and I understand the feelings of nausea, where they come from. But that's organic engineering, so yeah, it does play into what you were looking for.
How do you feel overall about it, about the target?
Well, I mean, it was fascinating, and I did feel disgusted, but I know how to keep a distance, so I didn't play into it, and I didn't go back. You asked me how I was feeling. I didn't even reply to you. I just put it away. So no, I'm not feeling that anymore. Yeah, good. But there's definitely that mycelium thing and there was a lot of these streaming things. So there's definitely communication, because I mean, we used to think that there was one theory about we can do remote viewing because we get into like a mycelium network of thoughts. So there's something in that there. I'm using it as a metaphor as well.
Curious. Well, great job, Coral. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay, Anita, you're next on my list.
My first session, I got planetary system and the idea of invisible, something slippery, equinox closed, nox closed, something that is closed or hidden, structural, broken. And then like Coral, I also got this human or biological flying, whooshing out, something round, also reminding me of that silicon thing she had. Mine was pipe shaped. And I also got these vertical wavy shapes, almost reminding of flames. And the idea of diversion. I got like a space battalion, like a space war, but all this with structural contexts. Chinese, more like that, the shape, something having the shape of a Chinese hat, and also the idea of antennas, also like others got. Significance of vegetation and photons in all this. Also orange and red. Round things reminding me almost the shape of cells, but with the link idea, a linking of events. And the idea of things fitting together like Lego blocks. Here I got scream of distress outside disturbance. And the idea of money, dollar signs, thunder sounds, slamming into something hard below, slimy, yuck, also something disgusting. I'm unsure if I am flying in space or hit a hole in the ground. All feels so utterly chemical. And that word utterly was, to me, sounded very British, like that had connotations somehow. I'm not sure if it's referring to MF5 or something. It felt military. It felt equated, calculated, like on a blackboard, scientific, militaristic. And then I got an AI of surprise. And if what I got was an ideogram or something else, the idea of chain linked and these antenna things, these tree-shaped things, planetary, and then the AI of how much clearer can this get, like the writing is on the board or on the wall. And I got all these numbers and the idea of keyhole, but with the keyhole being like a skeleton shape. I felt disorientated about where I am in the target, like things aren't going the direction as put on paper or as planned, with a strike at civic. But before I got military, so this is a bit confusing to me, the idea of a skin map, ship map.
I'm wondering real quick if you had military and civic, because we had the military that was seeding this technology to civilian research and development labs and then pushing it out to the general public.
Possibly. It's just confusing to me because this felt so military, and then all of a sudden the civic, like civilian angle it took.
Yeah.
And I got sound, musical, like this has somehow sound context, reminding me of some of these things we saw in the news lately, of these sound experiments in, I can't recall the name of the place now, is smoke, not an idiot, fire down below, apocalypse, eye of the storm of the planet, like it's the core of the planet, substitution, like something is getting replaced by something else. In this core or of the planet, the idea, Egyptian, strike at, smoke, eyes tearing, slippery, again, that orange, red, man-made structural, and then there's these small round things, and the idea of planetary, like you suggested, seeding, it reminds a lot of that. Teeth clapping from impact, idea of being transported, being in motion, asking what is it that is in motion. Biological, like this biological is steering at breakneck speed, missile, rocket, submarine, yep, is below, like this is all below or inside something or someone. Idea of landing on top, Elon Musk, like in hiding behind, heart stopping a beat, no breath, fear, and there I started getting these fear emotions, looking around, where are you now in relation to the target? Here I am, a little bit biological, something round and invisible and big, suspended in space, like there's something above this biological, and it's as the idea of inspecting, shiny, wet, rocking, again this orange energetics. On top, mountain shape, which is man-made, Everest dead, something that is legged, has some kind of filament coming out of the round, octopus, 8-legged.
That looks just like the integrated circuit, one of the initial designs of it. Looks almost identical to that drawing right there.
Oh. And this thing, this round thing with the filaments, this octopus thing, which is alien, no, and then I get, I know this is not an extraterrestrial target, but this thing is screaming, I want food. It wants to grow. And I've got a SC Yeti, Ku Klux Klan, hairy triangle-eyed, covered, not clothed in something. I creepy, freaked out, hair raising, like touching a spider. It's not nice. Boxy, like it's limited or contained. Egyptian grave, like something dug up. This is, Jesus, this is nefarious, not language I often use. Idea of layers resembling Oak Island, like it's some kind of complex chimney-shaped, pitted, idea of in the ground, extraplanetary off-base, and then something with speed whooshing past, and bang crash, metallic sound against metal hollow, space rock passing and crashing into a man-made in space. I'm like, so this is like a collision in space. Idea of all this being in the past, freaking hair-raising, help. Cyclic, biological. Move to new information about the target the tasker needs to know. Ghost-like, entity, like it's an entity. Cloud, fire, or unsure, it's dark-figured, smoky. Moon-shaped, like the moon has context. Wet, it's musical, again, that's the idea of sound having purpose. Idea of one thing, a map. So all these things as the idea of being a map of something. And then the music stopped. Idea of invisible target. And like I wanted to model this. I wanted a target I could model. And it's like I get the response, this is invisible. You can't model this. And then something replies, yes, you can model this, even though it's invisible. Like the shape of Paris Tower, chimney moon shape, shamanic, satanic, Ku Klux Klanic, blue. Total nonsensical. Move to the purpose of the target, if any. Sketch and describe. There I got again those little round things, like it reminds of seeding, evil-minded, natural, inclined. Broken arrow-shaped, motion aspected that way. Idea of record keeping, wet, energetic, categorizing, separating out, idea classification. Like all this has to do with how we classify things, our brains classify things as human beings, having to do with perception or mind, confusion, nausea, multiple aspected, fitting together, cut each sharp, idea of a map, wind, map that's winged, eagle, nausea, arm pain, fanged. What is this biological? Feels like human-animal cross, ancient god, glyph. And then again, numbers like on the blackboard, calculated, fiery, smoky, oriental, urban, piped, like at the start when this biological was flying, this piped thing. Shiny, money, wet, energetic, submarine, volcanic, mountain-shaped, repeats of previous data, eyes everywhere. Again, reminding of when I asked where I was in the target and this big round thing above, and idea of inspection. So this also reminds me of those things, seeding things, the small round things. Planetary, invisible, grid shape, red, reminds of corals, red stuff. Idea of mask or cage, caging off, like containing this, but the idea of a mask of something being hidden. Three aspected, again, this antenna thing also, again, the moon context, why the repeats, is something wrong? And then I got this upside down, biological, human, which is not good. Yes, biological is wrong, is dead, is dust, imaginary submarines, squidity, stupidity, this eight-legged round thing idea. A mermaid ET, some entity, moon shape, rocky planet, human, man-made. It's like all
I don't think
this
you're getting some chimera type data, mixed human animal.
yes,
And
absolutely.
off planet and on planet ties
Yes.
to it.
And like all this is combining into this planet and this space rock and this human thing, all this colliding in some way. I have no idea what I'm viewing. All feels so slimy, stinking, chemical, coughing, disgusting, smoky, blowing green. Oh my God, this has feet. Is it alive? Avalanche. Vaccine injected. You can't do this. This is against the law. I'm lost. I'm lost. All is. Who cares? Then just repeats of previous data. Biological strange. Again, this human coming from the planet, and on the left, some mermaid idea. It's like something merges, like human and something strange. Into the squid shape, beyond borders, invisible, shiny, futuristic, apocalyptic, rocky terra firma, below surface, submarine, hidden.
I keep wondering if that squid shape that you're seeing is the integrated circuit itself, which was asking.
That seems to be the integrated whatever that was, because it's what the sketches suppose when things get together. That is the result. But it was all idea of all this happening in the past. That is strange. Past repeating as the future. Record keeping. Depth.
I mean, the past repeating as the future, I think makes sense if you've studied some of the stories of the gods coming down and genetically altering mankind, or genetically altering the native species on the planet. But what's happened before, maybe it's happening again.
Yes, I also had that idea, but then I get to the next page and then I get wrong direction. Like something is moving in the wrong direction. Maybe like what used to be the past is now the future, and what used to be the future is now the past. Like something in the way things work had changed at an atomic level or something.
So what there's some curious stuff with UFO discussions and threads about time travel. And I had an opportunity to interview the author of this book's son, Phil Corso Jr. And one of the things he told me was time travel is the aspect that he's not allowed to talk about too much. He said there was something connected to time travel. So that might be what you're picking up there.
Might just be because it's like time itself is happening, is moving the wrong direction. So definitely some aspect of that there. Also radiation as context to nuclear and warping things. I'm just AIs there, and this feeling of mortal fear. And in the end, only children being left, like whatever this is has to lead the children. This musical sound thing or whatever, frequency dominance, external, deliberate, wet governmental, like this is something implemented to lead what's left when something happens that leaves only children behind. This is difficult to express target, but very simple. Summarize in one word the significance of target needed to know. Danger, fire, bomb, do not touch, right? Just seeing humans scatter. Idea of something wrong printed in a newspaper, wrong reporting,
That's
being
Roswell.
causal. No idea what that means. No,
Yeah, that's the Roswell
espionage.
crash. They printed the official story, and then they printed the cover story. There's a lot of debate going back and forth on the Roswell crash. So I think that's what you're picking up on right there.
No espionage needed. I'm not sure if I.
Well, no espionage needed. I mean, and if you think about it, if everybody's connected, you don't have a need to spy on them anymore because they are automatically uploading data to the server. There's no need to spy on people anymore if everybody's transmitting to a hive mentality, which is what DARPA has been funded to work on over the last few years, which is concerning.
Yes.
That was some great data that you pulled back so far.
I don't know if you want to if that's enough to get over, or I should go.
Just in the interest of time, can we summarize any other high points, that or low points? I know you were having some feelings going through this session as well. Ultimately, and like I said, I'll make this available for the public to see.
Yes. I think I've gone over most, so they can get to look at the rest of the session data and maybe ask any questions online or wherever if they've got.
Yeah. But you had some anxiety during this one as well, correct?
Yes. And I can't really remember what that was about. I'm just going to quickly see the last session if I can get that.
I just remember with you, Darby, and Coral, I was having those moments as the tasker of, do I need to shut this project down because of how you guys were coming through? And I'm going, I don't want to be sending them to this dark place. And I mean, that's not the tasker I want to be. So I remember just asking you guys, are you okay going forward? Do you want to stop?
Yes, these emotions were really intense, but as long as you know it's a target and it's not you, and it's you feel okay with doing it, I don't see a problem with continuing.
Yeah, and you guys all made the choice of taking it as far as you felt comfortable.
Yes, because often I've found sometimes you get these emotions and then you go and inspect them and you see it's maybe totally something different than what you expected it to be, and so much different data comes out of that. That it's actually an eye-opener. So I'm very keen to actually explore any emotions I get and see what they are about.
Yeah.
But yes, the nausea, bodily response to danger. So there's definitely a response of the element of danger in the contextual to our species, and anybody would respond to that.
Yeah.
Move to the chain. Humanity being ignorant, oblivious. Idea of a price paid for advancement.
And I think that's very telling. A price paid for advancement. I mean, our species is advancing at a rapid rate right now. What price are we paying? What's the impact on consciousness and on who we are right now? Human 1.0, or who knows, maybe we're human 3.0 at this point. But it seems that we are being changed. Some of us I think, have some awareness of it, but a lot of us don't. And a lot are okay with that integration and that change as well. The younger generation, because that's what they know.
And I think pretty much this comes down for me, what the target comes down to is that humanity is, whether we like it or not, is going to be changed, and that some of it is in our favor and some of it is not. And
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I agree. It's changing whether we like it or not. And speaking of some of it being in our favor, I know this has been pretty dark so far, but I think that's a good segue. Let's pull up Daz's session. So Daz, why don't you go ahead and share your session?
Okay, so do you want me to go from the beginning and go and scan through them fast?
Yeah, let's go. Let's, in the interest of time, I know we're over an hour at this point.
Yeah, okay, you can see this okay then?
Yes.
Okay, let me scan through this. Okay, so yeah, and initially I knew straight off the bat it was life, event, and energy in the past. I had all this stuff about structures, and I think going through life form, enshrouded in energy there, in size and enclosed energy, which is multidimensional. So I think I was picking up on something very esoteric at this stage. I'm scanning through this because it's got all details like UFOs and stuff. So it was hinting
You
at
had
what it was
definite
like.
target contact with this as you were going through.
Yeah, and it was talking, and I think this here was just starting to talk about structures, or where the origin place, I think, where they were from. And I feel that this was somewhere owed, and it details these owed structures, like pyramid type structures, and in a place which was like red, very red, felt very Mars-like to me.
And that speaks to the tasking as the origin of the intelligence that created it.
Yeah, that's where I think this first session was going, because it's and here it's talking about the life forms themselves, how they work, and stuff. And
can you go back to that one? This feels like the involvement of a single male, but I also sense other life. Okay, background life. Okay,
yeah, a bit more looking inside the structure. So this is like a structure, and it feels like it's somewhere else with red soil here. So it feels like, I'm looking at the origin place of where this is, where they came from, and I knew here at the bottom it's in the past as well. And here's some more sketches of it here, kind of place.
You have the sound in there as well, the hum and vibration.
Lots of humming, lots of vibration, lots of high energies, very esoteric, dimensional stuff. And I was asking what's involved, and I had this weird kind of like Stargate type portal type thing that released lots of energy. Lots of plasma type energy. So there's lots of stuff here. And at the bottom, it feels like an event at a place, creates a door or portal, allowing something to manifest. And then I had this ideogram here of clearly of something descending towards a surface, which I think was an event. And it says here is an event in the past which involves an object falling from above downwards. So this is, I think, now talking about the actual Roswell crash itself.
Yeah.
There's some energy to do all this as well. And then I just break down the target here with just some basic details of all the energy, the people, the structures, that kind of thing. It did have a weird kind of AOL here, which had Philadelphia experiment, because it felt like there was a time element to it as well. So that ties in with some of the interesting data we just heard. So that was session 1. Then Dennis asked me to go back. I can't remember what the actual tasking was for that.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I can look.
But got life here and energy again, and then I'd start talking about some kind of interaction here, and it feels like a life going through a spiritual awakening. This is human life. It has connection with an energy. This is all non-physical. It feels like a flow of love and ideas and communication, everything non-verbally, very subtle. So I start talking about this and what the purpose of this was. I asked what the purpose was. And it's all about giving answers and knowledge. This feels like a start phase of a long dialogue, like a non-physical handshake or introduction, a lifetime course of action which has been initiated. And it felt here like a life form was giving us a helping hand or a nudge from a higher being. So it was giving us something. A strong feeling of love, respect, helping with all this. I asked how here. I had this kind of weird thing here with no time and some kind of, I don't know, some kind of spider web type connections through time. Tried to describe the interface. This felt physical, location based, maybe. Feels like the life is touching or holding something which triggers events. Feels like a meeting of separate components that triggers an event. Lots of timing and state of mind here. This felt very esoteric.
I'm sorry. I'm just thinking about a couple of things. You mentioned the Philadelphia experiment. I need to go back and listen to the full interview with Phil Corso Jr. I think he had a story similar to that. Time travel, something popping out in space and appearing. I believe that's in there in the feedback, that interview.
Well, from what we know about the Roswell crash, although it's, incidental kind of information. There are allegations that the craft can travel in time and space. So who knows really all that. Yeah, so this is just all about really some kind of communication event that happens.
Right.
I got here time, location, state of mind, all to do an event. It's like all time allowed an opening to manifest a sliver of dimensionality or a door. So yeah, it's got all this very strange esoteric stuff. And it's all about, I asked, what is this? And it's all about transformation, a process over time, a progression, a communication and a realization and an eventual linking. I wrote here, this is a past event, in the past, and it's all about opening us up on a spiritual journey, a handshake, if you must. And session 3 here.
I think that was important, and that was where it really started to speak to me. And I've written about this possibility too, not with the Roswell crash, but just these spiritual journeys that a lot of us have gone on, especially as remote viewers and spiritual people. We experience something horribly dark sometimes, or scary, or not understand, and we go through it and we ask the questions, and it's at the time it's one of the worst experiences we've ever gone through. But it gives us this perspective where we realize now where we are. I mean, I'm a remote viewer, I still say I'm a trainee here, but I'm in this, this process now because of that dark, scary stuff I went through. And I'm in a good place now. But there were times when those really dark things were horrible. So I look at your data as like, we have to experience that fear sometimes, to go through that. So maybe this is hopefully part of just a growth process for our species to be afraid that forces us to grow into a certain direction.
Maybe, yeah. I kind of have the feeling, and we go into it a bit more in this session, that, we're a bit more like cattle.
That's the other piece of it, Daz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you asked me to look at the plans, and that's my cue here. And I wrote here, this feels like it's both a physical, genetic, and spiritual manipulation. It's all to do with genes, lines, and subtle manipulation of bloodlines, DNA and genes. And I had all these images in my head of all these, the XY chromosomes, all that kind of stuff being manipulated. And then details here about us being tracked. And, this feels like subtle, slow process over generations. We're being tracked, manipulated. It didn't, but I did write here, the manipulation is soft. It doesn't feel nefarious. But, vets maybe aren't nefarious to animals.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something is so, I mean, how many people report having the devices, the implants put in them?
Yeah,
and a lot of people aren't even aware that they've had contact.
Absolutely, yeah. You lie to animals, and children, don't you? Say this is for your own good.
Right.
So I wrote here, so what ends growth, communion, joining. This feels like life being tended to, watched, encouraged, and grown. And it feels like we're an experiment in a garden. And this is eventually to do with integration and acceptance. So, I broke down the word communion there. So that's just some words there. And I tried to work out what was going on. It's like, it's a bit like this. There are growers, which are them. And I wrote here, you are not as high as you think you are on the chain. So we're the middle people here. We're the project and the experiment, which has been seeded, which will eventually take us to other places in the universe. But it was kind of, this mental note was telling me that although we feel we're the all-conscious great beings on this planet, we're not actually the higher echelon, really. There are other people or other things higher than us. And, how we treat cows and cattle and animals is how these other beings probably look upon us mentally.
I that hits me. I mean, I wrote 2 books talking about that and that perspective. It's humbling when you have that thought of, what if I'm not the highest authority here? Does it change how you interact with life on the planet? And it does. Yeah. It really made it shifted how I look at food, how I look at nature, everything.
Absolutely. We wouldn't want to be treated the way we treat some of the things that we eat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I just tried to describe the higher being, and I felt that they were soft, kind, thoughtful, and caring, slow moving, every movement they made was an exact movement, almost graceful and deliberate, almost like, their movements were very slow Tai Chi, like, they thought about where their hand was going to be before their hand was actually there. They were thin, taut, pale skin. They were physical and non-physical, but the non-physical felt like it was artificially created. When I try to feel the being, I feel as though it's trying to be kind, trying to explain things, but only within what it feels I can understand. Like how we talk to children. It did feel sympathetic, but we are not equal by any means. It almost felt like the way I talk to my pets, my pet like feel. There's love and respect there, but we were definitely not equal. Maybe one day, but we weren't equal at the time I was feeding this. And it felt like they were mixing, testing seeds, and we were hybrids. They're very psychic and telepathic connected. They feel hardwired into the universe. Their brains and minds are more capable of more bandwidth and connections concurrently than ours are. They've been mistaken for angels and guardians, but they see themselves as more like farmers and gardeners, and that we are the crop. It just sounds bad when you say it like that.
Well, I mean, that comes out of Bob Monroe's book, Far Journeys, where he talked about Loosh and how we're being, basically manipulated to produce energy.
So we're on a journey.
In the Naeem sessions, by the way, but go ahead.
They said we're on a journey. So I asked, what is this journey? And it's all about an explosion of consciousness and an expansion. And, that's what this ideogram was trying to be. But they were trying to say it has to be done in stages. It has to be generational. Otherwise, it goes too fast and then everything breaks down. We are currently on the cusp of knowing, they said. And I was trying to ask what. And they were, because this was almost like having a dialogue, to be honest. And they were saying that we will know that we are more than what we think we are. And I tried to ask more than what. And they were saying more than our physical bodies and our limitations. We are a product being refined, and each stage is a step closer to that refinement. And I was like, whoa, freaking me out a little bit here. So I tried to ask, what is this connectiveness? And I just have this drawing here, and I wrote it here, the core. It feels like our minds. Oh, I can't even read my own writing here. I don't know, doing something here. Our minds,
brains,
souls are the key, but they're just not switched on yet. Consciousness is the key, and it will be connected to all things. I asked, who are they? Things. And they said, we are you, and you are us. We are everything, but specifically, who are you? And they said, we're your gardeners. They just kept using this gardening kind of feeling to it. They just kept saying it's bigger than anything we can comprehend or imagine. The scale, the years, the time, the space, and it all had its own momentum, and we were just part of it. And that's pretty much it, really. Other than the last notes where they said, we are too egotistical about ourselves right now, and this is a process that takes time. And I had the AOL there, just be patient.
Dad, I think it was a great session. It gave me a lot to think about. I didn't expect your data at all, but given the possibility of telepathic overlay, I mean, some of that is right out of several chapters of things that I've written about, to include the garden metaphor. So I just say that, to keep in mind that maybe this is just a lot of it coming out of my thoughts and perceptions of this. Maybe not. I don't know.
It's hard to know, isn't it? Because there's so much mythology around Roswell and the aliens involved in interactions and stuff. It's just hard to determine at this stage.
Yeah, but a fun target, fun data to review. Coral, you have your hand up.
Yes, Daz, on page 18 of your first session, you actually drew a lens, which was the exact image that I'd drawn. I drew a lens as well.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean with that. Yeah. Curiously, because I know quite a lot about the Roswell case and Colonel Corso, as part of his package of stuff that he was giving out to science, there were actual lenses in there.
Oh, that's right. The lenses off the
lenses off the eyes of the
night vision.
Yeah, which we now created night vision and other technologies from.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, there were lenses. I mean, we're not specifically as the target looking at those lenses, but they were literally in the same file cabinet.
They're in the same pile, yeah.
as the silicon chips.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And then talking about gardeners, I remember doing another target. It was called the Alien Choir, where they were looking down, and I tasked them for what they were thinking, and they said they were looking at us, and they said prawn food.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't thought about Roswell along the lines of Dennis's intent before, and I've read a lot of books about Roswell and UFOs and stuff. And it has never crossed my mind whatsoever that the Roswell crash could have been intentional to seed us with technology and stuff like that. But now we've discussed it here and seeing the sessions and stuff, it's making me think, what if that is the case or was the case? And the effects that's happened from that since, not all bad, but not maybe all good as well.
Right.
Yeah. So, and we have because of this technology, if Corso is to believe, and I don't see any reason why not really.
Yeah.
All the stuff that we have, like the actual talk we're having now is because they got the fiber optics from the Roswell crash, which
Right.
allows us all to have internet connections with high bandwidth right now. So for that fact alone, it's quite shocking for me. But yeah, it's going to give me some great thought to think that this might all been purposely done. Yeah, I find it all slightly worried that, however conscious and brilliant we all think we are, that we might all be manipulated at the most devious of levels
to be here, to be to this part, and that's the almost the scary thing, Daz, is that we can say, well, maybe this is just our imagination, but logically you can still connect the dots to get to this point with this thread. Like, it's not just well, I saw the YouTube video. Like, we can connect a lot of the dots here to say, hey, well, this is possible or probable that it could have happened. Well, great session. Let's keep it moving. Let's move on to Naeem, and then Rick's going to go over his sessions as well. Naeem, I think you had a lot of stuff about energy, which is curious, looking at if that's what the crop is, maybe.
Interestingly, in my first session, I saw someone hiding in a bush using night vision. So that was interesting. I saw someone in a dark place using night vision. So, but let me go on to, so one of the first aspects of land I saw, I saw some kind of objects on the land, and I get a sense of hidden, lost, and recovered, confiscated, hidden tech, debris, a report, something to do with a flight path, and it felt artificial. Looking at another aspect of land, I see, I get a sense of something was downed, artificial crash, recovery craft, seal and restrict, like they block this off. See smoke rising from this area. Looking at the structure, I see a structure on the land, crash, debris, broken. I get a sense of ammonia and chemicals. And I said, it looks like it's almost like it's split in half or something like that.
It's like Coral's session. She was getting the chemical smells.
Yeah, aircraft, ship, secret, hidden. Here's, definitely think I was on target here. I see two people by debris, and I get a sense of a colonel, sergeant. I hear someone say, like, holy shit, reporting for duty. And I get the sense that these guys hide, recover, seal, replace. And I got this throughout my session, finders, keepers. Kept getting that.
Yeah, I think I retasked you on that as well.
Yeah, I kept getting the sense of finders, keepers. Yeah,
I think you're definitely at the crash site right now.
Yeah, so let me hop over to the next session here. Looking at the technology here, I got a sense of some sophisticated life, almost like a foreign intelligence. And something throughout my session, I get the sense that this technology has something to do with water. Like I keep getting hydro, stuff to do with hydro. Almost like a generation or a faucet or a source having to do with water. I get that they hoist, recover, reinvent, supplement, investigate, and rework the technology. And again, I get this liquid generate and AOL of like power source. Found, replenished, refurbished. It gets parted, like they parted out. Yeah, it was found, repaired, reused, implemented, recovery in a secret program. Moving on to the next one here. Looking at the land again, I see something is disturbed on the land. It's been almost like buried or covered up, sealed, pollution, contamination, cleanup, sealed off, restricted. Looking at the air, I saw something streak by. I see something triangular streak by. I get a sense of airborne craft, secret, military involved with this, flyby, force field copulation with that one. Looking at that structure here, I got a clear visual of a black triangular shape craft here, and I see that kind of like ripping air, buffering, cockpit resistance, airborne, and it feels artificial. And I wrote, it's kind of like the Blackbird that reminded me of that hidden secret type craft here. I see it impact, crash, muddy, search and find, lost, recovery, causes a shockwave, a wreckage, a disturbance. Trying to look at that more closely, it looks like a grayish black, very almost like it has no seams, like it's just very smooth. It has like a coating. I get this like ammonia dichloride chemicals, search and rescue aircraft. Here I see a life picking up a circular structure. Maybe that's the wafers they're talking about. I get investigate and impound. They're excited and curious. I get alloys, chemical compound related to that. I see a crane. It lifts this thing up. Implant, lift, recovery, cover up, mechanical hoist, a heavy duty lifting. And then I see a bunch of life overlooking a wreckage, and I get a sense of a recovery team. So definitely felt like I was onto the whole crash scenario there. And then you were tasked me on the function and the impact of the technology. And here, I feel like the life, they travel, they discover and retrieve, reconfigure, refurbish, and utilize this technology. The energy feels almost like mythical, empirical, non-physical, almost like an auric field. Sketching the technology aspect, it feels like a generation, accumulation of energy, almost like an electric charge potential. And I had AOL of like a generator. Describing the function, it feels like it generates, collects, almost like a fusion or infuse. And I see this kind of like torus shape, has to do with field dynamics and charge potentials, discharge, synchronized, partitioned, and stored. Feels futuristic, almost like a fuel-less green type technology. High efficiency, supercharged. And I wrote, it's almost like a battery, like a fuel cell, capacity, discharge, secret manufacture. describing the impact on human society. It feels like world changing. It reconfigures. It's a game changer. I get the sense of like, green energy, fuel, remit, clean. Like the AI was like no more fossil fuels. A new future, a power adapter to transmit and electrocute.
I found this all curious. I mean, looking at kind of the big push now to go green, to have a much cleaner environment. I'm wondering if that's, is that where this is going with all this tech? I mean, is that one of the ultimate, goals of this?
Yeah. Reduce consumption, atmospheric discharge, electricity generation, currents and channels. I feel like some kind of fuel cell type thing here. New green world. They're going to mass produce this. Small and discrete, emission free. The generation, this is kind of interesting here. Like, it has to do with atmospheric particles and dispersion of them. Like I see little particles and charges going from one to the other, something to do with the air and the atmosphere. And I wrote, it kind of reminds me of Tesla type stuff, like how he was pulling energy out of the atmosphere. And I get this word hydromorphic. I had to look that up. Like it's like something having to do with structures that are adapted to growing in water or something like that. The whole water thing again. I see this kind of like coil, and it has like a torus field, and I get atmospheric coiled, almost like a donut, torsion compression, transfusion, sparks come off of this. It almost has like a membrane with osmosis that occurs. Again, looking at that, vapor coalesce and steam and gas just comes off of it. It connects and transmits, broadcasts and disperse. It's like a no resistance current flow. It has a membrane. And then I see lightning, like this has something to do with the atmosphere. I see those sprites, lightning. And then here I see what looks almost like an antenna type thing. And I get a sense that these guys are in a dead zone. Modify, interchange, supercharge antenna array with these ring structures that charge up and discharge. Feels like a futuristic utility. Yeah, and that's pretty, I wrote this technology is related to energy generation. I get the sense of atmospheric elements, charge and discharge, like a supercharged fuel cell. I see a donut torus field. I see electricity and lightning and sprites associated with the technology. Ring type structures hold a charge similar to an antenna. Feels very green, like fuelless fuel cell. Allows for distributed electricity, no emissions. Reminds me of Tesla putting power out of the air like a generator, game changer. That was it on what I got there.
A lot of energy stuff there. I mean, that was pretty cool. And I think how we're all getting different pieces of this target. How do you feel about it overall, Naeem?
This is interesting. I read the Day After Roswell like quite a while ago, so I didn't really come to mind when I was doing the session. But it does make you wonder, like right around that time we did have the like he says in the book, we had this huge explosion of new technology, new things. And I think it's interesting that the whole water thing I keep getting, all the UFO videos they're showing now, a lot of them show that these guys come in and out of the water. So it's like, yeah, it's a possibility that maybe these things run off water.
And maybe they're the byproduct and they're actually our tech that came from this.
Oh yeah, maybe we're using it already. Yeah.
I mean, and if we're sticking to the tasking, it's like, what impact will this have on human society if that's our tech under the water? I mean, who knows at this point?
Yeah. Interesting target. Yeah.
Great session. Great work by everybody. Rick came to the the project about a week ago. Had some trouble with some of it. He just sent me a note he wasn't able to stay. He had to sign off. But he did note that some things others described the aspects of war, trench, Coral said in flames, scream of distress, military sound, music. This is a note he sent me. He found the target difficult as though being blocked. Coral described as being told to stay away. This is what it felt like. So he didn't really feel connected to a lot of the sessions that he submitted, but he did have a third session that I haven't had a chance to go through yet. So I'll take a look at that here. But he said he found the aspect of the life form being up and moving, then the next down and flat. Strange, that part. The cloak part, Anita picked on the Ku Klux Klan, etc., the robe, the cape stuff. So I think he had some connections to that. And he had something that's similar to the pyramid shape. So I'll go through his third session and we'll add that to the mix with the final product that we put out here. Any other final comments on this? I know we went decent amount of time on this project.
No, interesting work from everyone. Great work.
Yeah, it was a great job.
I think it's amazing how we all got the different pieces of the puzzle. Everybody got
the division of work.
Yeah.
It's neat when that happens.
It's pretty amazing when that happens, isn't it? It's kind of like how does that happen without an intelligence behind it, divvying it up?
It really makes me think that we're nodes in a part of a larger machine, and we're all in looking at the DARPA propositions that James Giordano I was talking about the neuroscientist. He was talking about funding to fund like a hive brain that they had 500 participants in. There's no more information on it. But he says, basically, you're giving up your individuality for a quicker processing and solving of problems. So it's a shared experience. And I'm thinking that's like remote viewing. So I think we're already using that tech that's naturally built into the human system. And I think what we're getting is maybe some kind of upgrade, but we see that here with that division of work. We're all solving a problem and gathering information collectively, but we're all getting different pieces of it. And I think that speaks to what maybe is going on here. So lots to think about on this one. So I thank you all for your hard work. I'm sorry for stressing some of you out with this. I felt terrible when I was getting those comments from you guys. So thank you for, sticking with it. It was a great job.
Yeah.
All right.
Great project and great work, guys.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Well done. That was really nice.
Really great.
So what are your thoughts? Is this the product of remote viewing my own imagination? Or is there something to this? Does the corroborating data and stress and anxiety experienced by several viewers point to something more going on here? Is humanity being evolved or forced in a particular direction of growth or transformation? The rabbit hole runs deep. The potentials run deep on this one, my friends. I'm going to explore this further in my next episode of the Seeker Podcast. So look for that at sixthsensemedia.net. And again, you can find the full session of this at sixthsensemedia.net. Thank you to all of our remote viewers that participated in this project. I'd love to hear your comments, so please feel free to throw them down below. Let us know what you think. Just be kind. I'm Dennis Nappy II. Remember to never stop questioning, keep an open mind, and let your intuition be your guide. Thank you.